Hey, KU fans, welcome back to balmy Lawrence, Kansas. I don't know about you, but it's hot here in Lawrence, Kansas. Maybe it's because I just came from...
The reflection I'm looking at in those glasses is hot.
That's you right there. No, just in West Virginia where it was miserable, snowy conditions.
Do I know what trips to take off?
Oh, you nailed it. So I come back to Lawrence, Kansas, and it's 49 degrees the day we fly in. It's almost 60 out there on Thursday here when we're filming this.
The office is half empty. Everybody's golfing.
Everybody's golfing.
Except me.
Grinding it out, as always. And I'm here just balmy, if that's what a person can be. But we are here to talk about KU sports and not me or our road trip that Gary survived. Let me tell you about Gary Bedore on this road trip.
Yeah, not all the outlets got there.
Right, that's true. Yeah, it was a 4.5-hour drive to go 75 miles. Mike Yoder made it happen behind the wheel. Gary Bedore kept things interesting for at least 4 of the 4.5 hours with comments about vagabonds.
And the National Guard can't even
comments
save
about
you.
the National Guard. And yes, one time he said, as we looked across the way at the 12 miles of traffic backed up on northbound I-79 there, Pittsburgh, West Virginia track, Gary looks over at these poor saps. When we finally got going about 25 miles an hour, but we're moving and they're stuck. And he goes, see, now is when the Russians and ISIS should attack. We'd stand no chance. It was a thing of beauty. And by no means is Gary condoning any of that kind of activity. He's just saying they were sitting ducks. And they were, much the way Kansas was against West Virginia.
The things that go through brains when you have a 1.5-hour trip that turns into 4.5 hours.
Oh, my goodness. It was unreal. It was
unreal.
Like
everyday commuting when I worked in L.A. and New York.
Yeah, I can only imagine that. I don't know that I would survive that. I did survive this, and believe it or not, I was actually kind of disappointed I did because the game was about as bad as that road trip. It was a brutal performance, as you guys all know by now. KU did not look good in really any aspect of basketball or life, if you will. And in some ways, I think that's the good news. I know that's kind of counterintuitive or whatever you want to say, but Kansas had, after losing a game to Michigan State early in the year that they gave away, they had just kind of gotten on a roll and feeling pretty good about themselves and elevated themselves all the way, obviously, to number 1 in the country. I don't know that they're the clear-cut number 1 team in the country, and now we definitely know they're not because their weaknesses were exposed by West Virginia.
If you have a vote, do you vote West Virginia or Kansas ahead of?
I would vote West Virginia.
So would I.
Yeah, right? They have 1 loss, and it's to Virginia, a good team.
Yep.
And Kansas.
It was a decisive victory.
Yeah, it was
home.
14 or something like that.
I mean, the Kansas victory was decisive.
Oh, right.
The West Virginia victory against Kansas.
Yeah, I would definitely put them ahead. So,
as opposed to Kansas' victory against Oklahoma in a classic.
Right.
That was 4 overtimes. So
3.
3.
I'll save Benton the work on that buzzer. I love the buzzer, though.
USC and Arizona was 4
there
overtimes. But I wasn't there, so I don't know what that has to do with anything. Felt like 4 overtimes.
Here,
it was that exciting.
You can put these on if you go out to cover USC Arizona. Do you buy that, though, that's good news that Kansas lost this game? I mean,
no.
A loss is never good.
No, I don't think it's good news because I think that their lack of quickness was exposed.
Well, that's what I mean. The fact that they now know some of their weaknesses and can actually get down and work on them. No?
They knew them all along.
You think?
Now the rest of the world knows.
Yeah, that's true. The blueprint is out there, right?
Yeah, and I don't think it's good news. I mean, you could say the bus is an hour late and this and that, but if you're the number 1 team in the country, you have to be tough enough to not let that stuff bother you.
Yeah.
The fact is, West Virginia makes teams play lousy.
Right.
So that's part of it. It's an unusual style to be pressing right after they get a defensive rebound and they're right in your face. And
it's awesome to watch.
Around one time, yeah. And was so shocked there was a body there, he just turned it over.
Right.
I mean, so I would think you're more ready the second time you play West Virginia. And the home road disparity for West Virginia is probably greater than any other team in the conference because they're so physical that when you go on the road, you're going to get those calls against you.
Right.
And at home,
they let a lot of it.
They let a lot of it go. It's just human nature.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And they're good, though. I mean, this is a good basketball team.
Yeah.
They're not just, they didn't just muddy up the game and win. They didn't just physically beat up KU. They can play basketball.
They're quick and they're strong and they're tough.
Well, they shot 33% and only made 3 3-pointers and dominated KU. you're not going to find very many teams that can do that, and that's awesome.
I've always said of Huggins' teams, their best offense is a missed shot.
There you go. Yeah, all the way back at Cincinnati, right? Yeah, no doubt. So I think in the 2 and almost loss against Oklahoma, KU's really gotten pushed around. Michigan State just took over at the end physically and pushed them around a little bit. Oklahoma certainly was tough and out-tough KU in some ways.
Though.
Yeah, they were.
I think they out-quicked them. I don't think they out-toughed them.
It was just such a battle. You can't really hold that against either team. But in this one, definitely KU got out-tough. So a little bit of a weakness exposed there that if I'm coaching against Kansas, I press them and I try to be physical with them and make them uncomfortable. And that's kind of been the recipe for a while. What's the bad news if that's not bad news?
Well, you know what? The bad news is Oklahoma State only loses to Oklahoma by 2 points.
Yeah.
In Stillwater,
Wednesday
which
night,
tells you here's a layup game you thought, and all of a sudden it's not such a layup, especially when Kansas goes to Stillwater. Juwan Evans, a freshman guard, scores 42 points, gets up 31 field goal attempts, 29 of them from 2-point range.
Yeah.
And he's barely 6 feet. This guy is incredibly quick. And Oklahoma turned it over 19 times in Stillwater, 10 for Buddy Hield alone. So that tells you Kansas is going to have to learn how to take care of the ball real quick before it goes down next Tuesday to Stillwater.
Do you know what Juwan Evans said in his press conference when he committed to Oklahoma State?
He said, I'm going to force 10 turnovers for Buddy Hield.
No, he had this hat on, an Oklahoma State hat.
No, you're thinking of the wrong guy. That guy's going.
LeBron Nash said that. I just thought it would make me a tremendous person.
Yes, that was LeBron Nash.
I hope that never dies. I hope in 20 years we're still talking about that.
Yeah, I just thought that wearing it would make me a tremendous person.
Good stuff. But, yeah, I agree. Oklahoma State, KU plays TCU at home on Saturday, but then goes to Stillwater next Tuesday. That's pretty quick turnaround to go face a team that may do a lot of the same things that West Virginia did, and obviously they'll work on it, but will they have enough time to get it figured out? Scary stuff. Let's talk about TCU on Saturday. Bill Self said, he said in his press conference this week, there are no home locks in this conference anymore. And I get it. I think that he's probably right. This conference, top to bottom, is probably as good as it's been in a long, long time.
Right, but this is a lock.
It's a home lock, right. And it would have been anyway, probably, but it really is coming off a loss where you're a little bit embarrassed. You got punked a little bit. I think that TCU's in for a world of hurt on Saturday. And I think 2 reasons. Number one, I think Kansas will just be so locked in on playing better, taking care of the basketball, the controllables, things that they allowed to be a problem at West Virginia that essentially led to them sort of helping West Virginia defeat them. Beating themselves is, sort of a way to put it, but I don't want to take anything away from West Virginia. But I think they'll be locked in on the turnovers and things like that. And then I think the other thing is they're just going to obviously feed off of that home crowd. Everybody's going to want to just hug them and hold them and tell them it's okay, we still love you. And there's no way you can weather that storm in that kind of environment. So anything else stand out about TCU? Trent Johnson's teams are definitely trending upward, no doubt about that.
Yeah, that they compete real hard. He gets them to do that, and they have some quickness. But this is a lock.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, predict it then. What do you think? What happens? Who wins?
Oh boy.
I'm going to say you're going to pick Kansas. Not trying to put words in your mouth.
Kansas, let's say 86-66.
Nice. I got 83-63. So
interesting.
20-point spread.
20-point spreads.
A home lock, if you will.
Yeah.
Bill Self, ever the politician, always trying to force that agenda to make us right that this isn't a home lock. It's a home lock. And there will be 2 or 3 more this year that KU has that are home locks.
There's no key in the possession of TCU.
Right. Fair enough. Let's go primetime pick. Who do you like to play well? And I think the slate's wide open because everybody...
I'm going to go with Carlton Bragg because watching that game, I thought, this big man rotation here is not really getting it done.
What big man rotation?
Barry Ellis. Ugh. So, Sheck Diallo, no. He's still not ready, I don't think. Carlton Bragg knows how to play basketball, so that gives him a leg up on Sheck Diallo. He's talented. He's not a guy who's going to give you a lot of defensive resistance if he's going against a powerful center.
Right.
but at least you can make it a little harder for the team to defend you.
Yeah, and his length could be,
block a shot here or there, and
just
he can hit a shot.
Right, yeah. I would love to see him get some more minutes, and you think it's time.
Yeah, and I think he probably will, just because watching that game, how can you not watch it and say, well, let's see what this guy's got? And maybe part of his problems when he gets into games is just a little bit of game jitters.
Yeah.
And if you get out there and get a sweat going and allowed to play through a few mistakes, maybe then you get it going.
Good time to do it, too. At home, you're going to much favor the idea of putting a freshman out there in a comfortable environment than you would.
Right, and an opponent that
is a home lock.
Yeah, home lock. You can't look at it that way if you're the coach. But
listen, Carlton, this is a home lock.
Yeah.
We're going to play you 18 minutes tonight.
Make as many mistakes as you want. We're not taking you out.
That'd be cool to see, whether it's worded that way or not. It'd be cool to see.
And if you don't play, we're taking your headband away. If you don't
there
play
you go.
Well,
there you go.
Taking your headband.
Really hit him where it hurts. Yeah. Seriously, though, that kind of stuff, that impacts kids. There's no doubt about it. I'm going to go with Devontae Graham to bounce back in this one. I think a lot of guys will bounce back. Tay, right. But I like Graham to bounce back in this one because I think even though he was bad too and he got sped up, I really think that he's a guy that took it hard. I thought Mason and Selden with their 6 and 7 turnovers, the looks on their faces were just despondent. I mean, they were distant. They didn't even look like they were in the building the other night. And I thought Graham had a lot of pain and he looked bothered by what happened. I think he's going to be more dialed in than maybe he's ever been. I think he knocks down a few shots. I think he slows down and just tries to bring the game back to what he's comfortable, back to what he can do. I think he hits 3 3-pointers, scores a couple of times in transition, gets to the free throw line, maybe has 18 points, something like that. But the reason I'm going with him again is I think Mason and Selden, 6 and 7 turnovers. That's incredible. 7 and 6. I think there's a chance that they, even in this game, may be trying too hard to bounce back, whereas Graham only had 1 turnover. Maybe he doesn't feel like he has to press as much to get back to something more, more redeeming or
maybe
whatever.
They'll just all play to the scouting report laid out by the coaches and not super
think anything. Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good, but that'd be boring if we did that, right? All right, let's finish it off. Actually, before we finish it off, I think there's one more thing I think we should mention, and it should have probably been in the category of good news. So let's go with the gooder news.
Better, or you might say.
Okay, gooder sounds good though too. And it's
Goody. Ryan Goodwin's the coach of Baker baseball.
That's right.
Making an impact.
It's about time to get started down there in Baldwin City. February season kicks off. It's go time. Anyway, football is what I'm going to talk here. And we got to go Amani Bledsoe. Narrowing his list, Lawrence High standout, 4-star recruit, narrowing his list to a final 2, and KU making that cut. I know you weren't surprised, but how big is that for KU?
It's big, but you know what? You don't get any points for second place.
No.
So I'm not going to say it's big. It's expected. We knew this for a while that Oklahoma was the team to beat for KU.
Yeah.
It'll be big if they get him. It'll be real big if they get him. I'm not going to give him any credit for being one of the final 2.
Well, I think that a lot of people all along in this process, going back even a year or even more, I think people always kind of thought he's got a good relationship with Clint Bowen and he's a hometown kid. Maybe he'll do the right thing and put KU in his Final 5 sort of as that token school, just as a nice gesture. I think if nothing else, this shows this isn't a token gesture. I mean, I think he legitimately has considered Kansas, gave them a 100% fair look, and still may pick them. But I think that's what this signifies. I think it would have been real easy for him to put him in the top 5 as just a favor or whatever you want to call it. But putting him as a final 2, I don't think is that. And you're right. You don't get anything for it. They have to finish and get him.
Yeah, I think they have a legitimate shot at him.
Yeah.
But I don't give points for legitimate shots. You got to get the guy.
It's good news.
You got to close.
Yeah. Well, it is good news, however you slice it, that they're still alive for him, for sure.
Temporarily good news.
Yeah, right.
Which could turn to bad news if they don't get him.
But it'd be gooder if they got him. All right, let's finish it off. I'll stop being obnoxious, and we'll let Tom tell you who his most obnoxious man in sports is this fine week. Who you got?
Well, I'm going to the Bengals-Steelers controversial finish, but I'm not going with Pac-Man Jones. I'm not going with Vontez. I never said I was perfect. I'm actually going with Martin Clark.
Oh, Mr. Clark.
I'm sorry, Martin Cook.
Mr. Cook.
Mr. Cook.
Not a Bengal, correct?
Allegedly, no, he's a fan, a Bengal fan.
Oh, boy.
Allegedly punched another fan sitting near him.
Another Bengals fan?
Yes, and then allegedly urinated on that said other Bengal fan. This is obnoxious behavior. You take certain risk when you go to a football game. After paying a lot of money for a ticket, you risk that you're going to your team you're rooting for is going to break your heart.
Yep.
Happened. You risk that maybe someone obnoxious near you accidentally spills beer on you, but you don't
probably happened
want
to somebody.
That beer to go through someone's body first.
Yeah,
and then land on you.
That's rough.
Yeah.
So, arrested or what?
I believe he was arrested.
Let's hope.
Allegedly.
I know everybody took it hard, though, so even the cops in the Cincinnati there might have been down and just like,
I don't know if he was arrested, but I think he was because it looked like a mugshot I saw.
What a stud. That's how you know he's their number one fan, though.
I'm not going to lie to you. He looked a little bit like our producer.
Benton Smith?
Yeah.
Wow.
Different hairstyle.
Okay. Benton is a Chiefs fan, so I can confirm that he was not in Cincinnati last weekend. That's good news.
To know.
Yeah,
we don't have to fire him.
We'll put that at the top of our good news for next week. But that's a perfect segue to my most obnoxious man in sports this week.
I hope yours kept it in his drawers.
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
And it's debatable whether he even had it, let's be honest. I'm talking Brian Hoyer, the Houston Texans quarterback.
Ooh.
Did you see this guy?
Ooh.
I mean, Broncos love and Chiefs hatred and all that stuff aside, as a fan of the game of football, I was offended by what Brian Hoyer did.
Well, after about the third turnover, don't you take him out?
Oh, my.
It's not relevant that he got you to the playoffs at that point.
No, you're trying to win and
survive. The point is he's doing something to himself that a Bengals fan did to another Bengals fan.
Very good one.
Right out there in plain view of every football fan watching that game.
Yep, and in two totally different cities. It was a nationwide epidemic last weekend, but he was horrible. And I'm really not taking anything away from Kansas City. They were going to win that game even if Hoyer was good. They're the better team, and they have a great defense. But, boy, he made it really easy on them, and the right move for Bill O'Brien would have been to bench him, and he did it once. He did the wildcat snap to J.J. Watt. You should have just done that the rest of the game rather than have Brian, Mr. Obnoxious Hoyer, out there on the field faking like he's an NFL quarterback. I mean, Johnny Football was offended by his play of quarterback in this game. It was
How about
brutal.
the new Browns coach? We're not going to have Johnny Manziel, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I'll take the job.
Take the job. I saw him interviewed on SportsCenter, and they asked, specifically that question. Hugh Jackson was asked, is Manziel going to be a part of this roster? And he said, well, we're going to evaluate all 53 men on our roster. And,
no.
And blah,
Translation,
blah, blah.
no.
And the interviewer pressed and said, but what about Johnny? Does that mean he has a good chance of making the roster? And Hugh smiles like this and says, we're going to evaluate the whole roster. It was beautiful.
N-O.
Right. No more clear evidence needs
Johnny,
to be
no.
seen. No, it was brutal. And good for him because they need to move on. So do the Texans. Brian Hoyer. Obnoxious. What won't be obnoxious is KU TCU and all these NFL divisional games this weekend, and then next week when KU goes to
forward
Oklahoma
to the
State.
Chiefs game. I mean, what a tough draw.
Yeah.
But
no, they got a great
what
chance,
a tough team.
And they're a good team, no doubt. Everybody that's left has a chance to win it, and it's a lot of fun this time of year in the NFL. We'll be back next week to talk all kinds of KU football, and I'm sure somebody somewhere will do something obnoxious. Let's hope it doesn't have to do with urinating. We'll talk to you guys next time on KU Sports Extra. Thanks for checking out this episode